Hey, it's Bronco from Apex Vaulting, doing another one of these weekly videos. And today, I wanted to talk about a topic that comes up from time to time at the club and something that we think about a lot. And if you don't know who David Goggins is, Google him. Amazing story. Just to give you the short end of it, he's a guy that had a really rough upbringing. He was like almost 300 pounds, going nowhere in life, and decided to make a big change. He wanted to become a Navy SEAL. So he lost the weight, became a Navy SEAL. Now he's an ultra marathon runner. And he wouldn't even call himself that, but he does run ultra marathons. And basically motivational speaker, has 2 books out. Really amazing story, really inspirational. And one of the things that he talks about that I think about a lot in the pole vault is this idea of, theorists versus practitioners. Theorists versus practitioners. There's some people out there that they go about and, they hypothesize on what could work, how you should do something, what won't work. And then there are practitioners. There are people that practice what they preach. They're out there doing it all the time. And when I think about the pole vault community, not a lot of topics, but especially if we talk about strength and conditioning, for example, there are a lot of people out there coaching the pole vault, which I get it. Pole vault is very, very technical, but oftentimes because it is technical, a lot of these coaches are super focused on that and don't really delve enough into strength and conditioning and how to train athletes. Athletes have to increase their physical capacity. And so sometimes I will get pushback, or I will hear certain comments from people talking about, maybe at Apex people lift too much, or, maybe all we need to do is gymnastics. These are all theorists. They're not people that are practicing training athletes. And when you start to look into the world of strength and conditioning, where their job, what they're practicing, is training athletes of all different sports, you get a very different message. And I guess my point, and to use pole vaulting as an example, is sometimes we could be so into our little bubble, our little community, that we forget to look outside of it for the real practitioners of a different topic, a different area of expertise. Look, you want to get technique from pole vault coaches? Okay, they're the ones that teach it every day. They're dealing with pole vault technique. But if you want to get stronger, faster, more explosive, you might need to go ask someone who is more in tune with that, more practicing, how to train athletes. And I think in life, a lot of times, we get caught up in our little, echo chamber, and we look for all the answers we need in that little echo chamber, but not realizing, man, there could be people outside of my little community that actually have some great answers for me because they actually practice this thing that I need to do. So again, in pole vault, we talk about training. Well, a lot of these coaches out there, other than training pole vaulters in pole vault, they're not really experts in training athletes. How to get someone stronger, how to get someone faster. A lot of people have some interesting ideas out there. And obviously, the jokes where people will make the exercise look like the sport. So in pole vault, you'll make it look like pole vaulting. But as an example, Mike Boyle, this strength and conditioning coach, very well known. He's in the New England area. He's coached professional hockey players, professional baseball players, other sports, including also Ali Reisman, former U.S. Olympic gymnast. And he said when you look at the training of all these demographics, he goes 80% of their training is exactly the same. Because regardless of the sport you play, the human body is the human body. Now, you might have to increase training in one area or another because of the demands of the sport. But a lot of people out there putting out theories and they're not really putting things into practice. They don't really have a plan. And so I always try to remind people, you know, if you hear a theorist talking, take it with a grain of salt. But when you're dealing with a practitioner, this is someone that walks the walk. They don't just talk the talk. And especially, you know, this video, if you're watching it, again, I love connecting everything to life. And it's true. I think in all areas of life, we need to try to seek advice from those practitioners. But when I specifically talk about pole vault, and specifically for any coaches that are listening, practice what you preach. I understand everyone is busy, and you don't necessarily need to train like an athlete. Okay, you're not trying to go to state. You're not trying to go to nationals. You're not trying to go to USAs. But you should still train. I mean, newsflash for anybody listening to this, but exercise is healthy for you. It's important. And how are you going to instruct athletes in training when you actively aren't training yourself? What example are you setting? Practice what you preach. And if you are someone that isn't right now, I promise you, you start training, it will give you a new perspective on the workouts and the training that you give your athletes. Because when you do that workout that kicks your ass and you know how you feel, you're going to think twice before you tell an athlete, oh, this is an easy workout, don't worry. No, you'll be like, this is going to be hard. This is going to kick your ass. And on the flip side, you actually will know, oh no, guys, this is light. This is like a little bit more recovery workout. You're going to be okay doing this. You'll have a better frame of reference. Also, once you start practicing what you preach, gives you a lot more credibility. Gives you a lot more credibility. Listen, I've been on both ends. I mean, there was one point when I started coaching pole vault, you know, I was so busy with coaching, so busy getting this club off the ground that I kind of let my personal health and wellness kind of go down the tubes. I was not in great shape. And let me tell you, the credibility I gained once I got back into shape and was training and working out, pushing the limits, it's a lot easier for my athletes to believe what I'm saying because they know I'm practicing what I preach. And I mean, if I can end with something on today's video to encapsulate everything, I think we need to be weary in life of taking advice from people who are theorists. We're not sure, kind of guessing. And we need to seek out practitioners. Like even me as a coach, specifically with this strength and conditioning topic, as I kept coaching pole vault, I realized I had to go outside of the pole vault to get good expertise, knowledge, information about strength and conditioning, how to get athletes stronger and faster. I think it's one thing, you know, when you hear, let's say, some Olympic athletes talk about what they do for their training, because sometimes we fail to recognize how freakishly athletic some of these Olympians are. And they're capable of amazing things. I remember my athletes one year at a pole vault convention were talking to a male pole vaulter who's a 19-plus foot vaulter, and they asked the vaulter about his lifting regimen, and he had mentioned that he doesn't really lift, but that being said, he could easily squat 400 pounds. This pole vaulter weighed 170. So you're talking about a guy that doesn't regularly lift, but can squat over double his body weight. Most people are not capable of that. Just pole vaulting, running, sprinting is not going to develop that strength. So they have the prerequisite strength. So that's why, again, even sometimes some of these freakishly athletic people I take what they say with a grain of salt, because if you happen to be training or are a regular person, you might have to do other things. You're going to start to have to go into all these different areas and try to push the limits just to increase your sprinting speed, just to increase your vertical leap. You might have to do a really serious strength and conditioning program. And sometimes we can't get that information from the pole vault world because some people are so far removed from that. And so in life, we have to sometimes go outside of our bubble and seek practitioners who are actually dealing with the problems that we need to solve. And if you're out there coaching, if you want to impact your athletes, if you want credibility, if you want people to listen to you, practice what you preach. Whether this goes about strength and conditioning, work ethic, showing up on time, diet, being polite, practice what you preach. You want your athletes to follow, you need to lead. Well, I hope this resonates with some of you out there. Enjoy the week.